Sunday morning. Well, we're going to talk about secrets to success, and I have had the pleasure of doing some speaking with Steve, and I know he's energetic, dynamic, and explosive, just like my good friend here, so I'm sure we'll cover a lot of great territory. Let me give you some quick ground rules before we get started. Steve and I will speak for about 40 to 45 minutes. Then at that point, we will open it up to questions from you. The hashtag that you can use to submit questions is hashtag hospitality lessons. So if you would like to submit questions, the last 15 minutes of our dialogue are going to be Q&A from you. So please find time, if you wish, to ask your questions via hashtag hospitality lessons or to amplify our discussion outside this room. Thank you, Steve, for being here with us.
My pleasure.
So just to get things started, let's talk a little bit from the macro perspective. Let's start with the hospitality industry. As we sit here today, what are the greatest challenges?
So the business has been on an incredible run since the financial crisis, and so it just has built gradually every year. But still, today, the supply-demand balance is very favorable because hardly any hotels got added during the downturn. And then as you look forward, you got to say, okay, supply-demand looks pretty good. And the fundamentals for our business are we're very closely correlated with jobs. So at least recently, you'd have to say that looks pretty good. GDP, obviously. Housing is a very important component for us. So all those look pretty positive. It is interesting. We're actually expecting a strong year. But if you look at Smith Travel, which is the collector of industry data for the hotel business, if you look at the end of December and into early January, it's a little volatile. And so you're seeing some ups and downs. And we think that that is actually a sort of discussed phenomenon in the news and with all the events going on that are making people feel a little uneasy. So they are not slamming on the brakes, but they are being a little more cautious than we thought we'd expect. Our expectation is that that sort of wears off as sort of the clamor about oil, about China, about the Middle East situation, about the Syrian problem. As that sort of settles, our expectation is we're going to have a very good year. But it is starting out with a little bit more volatility than we anticipated. And then from the challenge standpoint, it's very much what the folks in this room are facing. The actual business itself is strong. The question is who's going to get the business. And so as a result, for us, I'm an old hotel guy. I've been in business 36 years. I used to spend about 5 minutes thinking about distribution until the last probably 8 or 9 years. I'd probably spend 50% of my time, 60% of my time on distribution, on where our customers going, what they're going to book on, what are they looking for, ways to book. How do I maintain that loyalty loop with that customer? What's important to them? What's the influx of millennials? But it all boils down to that distribution question, which, in some ways is the biggest risk. If you ask what keeps people up at night, you worry about getting disintermediated with your customer with somebody else in between you, and you become a supplier versus that customer's loyal provider. Yeah. So when you look at that, you say, okay, how do you make sure that you stay meaningful? That's the issue in the changing environment.
Let's talk about disintermediation and this whole notion of how much of a consumer's decision is tied to their mobile device. And how do you sift through the noise in a bifurcated environment? Give me some sense of how you're dealing with that challenge.
Yeah, so the